Hey there, Dr. Steve here. We had an absolutely amazing exclusive Q&A with the one and only Sebastian Gorka that we want to share a bit with you. Seb got online and spoke live to our Insiders Club members and shared with them his firsthand insights into the future of the MAGA movement and the GOP and strategies that we can all employ to make sure that the best days for faith, family, and freedom are yet to come. It was really wonderful. He was live, and so our Insiders Club members got to ask him their questions, and it was an absolute treat to have direct access to this amazing patriot. So here are some highlights from that interview as our gift to you. I hope you enjoy it. Isn't it great? It seems to me that the establishment GOP, the Rhino, the Romneys, the Cheneys, the Sassas and all, they do not have an alternative frame of reference to effectively respond to this crybullying, to this incessant victimology. If anything, they seem to try to sanctify it on the right in some way. Do you know where I'm coming from with that? It seemed that Trump had an alternative paradigm to say, America first. We are all for protecting and defending victims within our borders, America and so on and so forth. Whereas it seems Democrats have become experts at just turning everyone into a victim, and you have to stay a victim the moment you're like Gina Carano and you think for yourself, then you're not allowed to be in there anymore. Right. Do you think that the establishment Republicans they're simply impervious? They have no rhetorical backlash to this incessant victimology, and that's why the Democrats are able to get away with so much.
It's much larger problem. We've got 3 hours, right, Steve?
Okay. You've already done your 3.
Right. It's so much bigger than just the response to the victim, the victimology. So, doing my show, I'm now in the 3rd year of America First, my radio show, and I realized in the last few months, and especially under COVID, the biggest life can be simplified. We have been told that the world is too complex. There's a British phrase for that: bollocks. It's not complex. If you understand strategy and you know how to prioritize, which is the art of the strategist, the world is not complex. It's like Clausewitz said about war. War is hard to do, but it's simple, okay? If you know the center of gravity, if you know what you're fighting for, if you know your enemy, like Sun Tzu taught us, you will win every battle, period. Now, knowing the enemy is not easy in some cases, but if you know them and why you're fighting, you will win. So the real reason for what we're seeing, I don't care what it is, Cardi B doing soft porn video, grinding at an awards ceremony, to Dr. Seuss being canned, to the most popular actor who actually you can see their face on a Star Wars TV show being canned because she said the truth. Can I be clear here? Sod the conservatives who said that Gina Carano's Instagram post was clumsy. It was exactly historically correct. When she showed that photograph of that German woman kicking her neighbor and saying, this is how it all begins, you're right, because the stormtroopers didn't walk down the avenues in 1933. It was first the dehumanizing of your fellow German that made the death camps possible. She nailed it, and that's why she had to be canceled. So the only problem we have, is cowardice. I don't care what the issue is. Right to life, Second Amendment, First Amendment, cancel culture, big tech, China, Uyghurs, Russia, voter fraud. The only thing that matters is cowardice. I mean, this thing about the last election, there was no evidence. No. The judges refused to hear the evidence because they were cowards, even the ones that President Trump appointed. Yeah. So, I want your viewers. I mean, I didn't know who you were. I checked you out. I've subscribed to your podcast. And I'm going to say this now because I think you deserve it. There's very few podcasts I watch regularly. There's Andrew Klavan. There's some funny, left-wing comedians who are totally anti-woke now out of the UK called Trigonometry. I watch those guys. You are one of the most educated podcasters out there. I'm really impressed. My first degree was philosophy and theology. I have a hankering. You study theology as well, and it explains a lot. You're well-read and you know what's going on. If your viewers want a glimpse into why we are where, it's not Obama. Forget about it. Obama's a lazy git who admitted in his biography he'd rather be watching ESPN than working. He put that in his autobiography, okay? He's not the master, manipulator. He's a lazy man who was lucky, okay? If you want to know really how we got to where, WAP is NPR's favorite record, but Dr. Zeus is bad, okay? You've got to understand what happened in the last 90 years. I don't read autobiographies because I don't have the time for that. But I've read two, and they changed my life. Number one, The Hillbilly Elegy. J.D. Vance has explained through the history of his clan, okay, why and how the American working class was betrayed by both the GOP and the Democrats. Read it. If you want to understand how a billionaire from Queens who'd never run for public office before became president, you've got to read Hillbilly Elegy. If you want to know how the left got to where it is today, in control of all of culture except talk radio, you've got to read Andrew Breitbart's autobiography, Righteous Indignation. Right. Just chapter 6 will change your life. Wow. Andrew was a leftist. He describes himself as a dumb, drunk student at Tulane who was triggered in a good way by what they did to Clarence Thomas, a black conservative who was the subject of a high-tech lynching, in his own words, done by who? Can I just remind the world who did it? Yeah. It was Joe Bloody Biden. It was sleepy, creepy Beijing Biden, chairman of the committee, who tried to stop a black man from becoming a Supreme Court Associate Justice because he was conservative, okay? That triggered Andrew. And he said, hang on, this is wrong. Coke cans and pubes, what are we talking about? This is a lie. This is an upstanding, amazing man. They are lying about him. He started to do his homework. In chapter 6, he writes down what he found. I use it as inspiration for my last book. And he maps it all. From a crippled Italian communist in a prison cell in the 1920s called Antonio Gramsci, all the way through to Marcuse, Adorno, the Frankfurt School, Saul Alinsky, Hillary, Obama, and all the way to today. He maps it all. It's called the New Left. It's called neo-Marxist. It's called cultural Marxism. By the way, which has now been deleted from Wikipedia. The entry for cultural Marxism has been deleted. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. This is an 80-year project. And the sad thing is, I always get asked, I travel the country, I give speeches, and people say, how did this happen? And I say, you want the bad news? Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Look at movies from the 1940s and 50s. Watch Casablanca and tell me how we weren't the most patriotic industry in Hollywood. Well, what happened? What happened to our university? You can graduate from an Ivy League college today studying English, never having read the greatest author alive. And I don't mean the greatest English author. Shakespeare is the greatest author of all cultures. Sue me, okay? How can you get a degree in English lit without reading Shakespeare or the great books courses? It is the destruction of our society by people who think we are the problem, that the truth, the existence of objective truth is oppression, That's how we are where we are today. And what did we do? What did we high and mighty conservatives do? Nothing. We let them take over the culture until some crazy ADD suffering lunatic called Andrew Breitbart said, stop the bullies. He was driven by one thing most: bullies. These people are bullies. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Disney, they're bullies. And when bullies get power, they become fascists. Right. And people forget, who was Mussolini? Mussolini wasn't a Nazi. Mussolini was a communist. Mussolini was a communist The word fascism comes from fasces, the symbol of one stick is easy to break. Many sticks bundled together is a fasces that cannot be broken. It's collectivism. Mussolini was a collectivist. And what did Hitler do? Hitler was jealous of what Mussolini was doing in Italy in the 30s. This was a trumped up little Austrian corporal who was sitting in prison with his weirdo buddy Hess, dictating his anti-Semitic screed, looking at Italy as the model of the modern state. This isn't dichotomies of fascism and Nazism versus communism. Right. It's the same. It's the same. And, Antifa isn't anti-fascist. Antifa are the fascists. Yeah. It's time to wake up. So to go back to the beginning, what we lack and what we need the most is courage. And to answer your question on the GOP, I mean, don't get me started on the GOP. The GOP, let's look. I love the new class, Lauren Boebert. I had Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show today, who they're trying to expel from Congress tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Democrats are having a vote to expel her from Congress because she's strong and she's a woman and she's a conservative. I love that new class. And I love, the guys in the Freedom Caucus, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Devin Nunes, Lumi Gomer. These are freedom fighters, Lee Zeldin. But ask yourself this question, especially in the Senate, the most powerful deliberative body in the land. In the last 4 years, how many people with a name R behind their name on Capitol Hill stood up for America first? I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is amazing, but people didn't vote for him because of his haircut. They voted for him because of his message. Right. That America is good, nation states are good. When America is strong, the world is strong. You can't have a nation without borders. DC is broken and corrupt. That's why they voted for him. First time in history. People forget. First time in our nation since George Washington that we elected a chief executive who wasn't a politician or a retired general. How do people forget this? From Washington to Obama, 44 presidents were senators, congressmen, former senators, or retired generals like Washington and Eisenhower. In 2016, the American people said, you sod that. We want a non-politician, non-swamp creature. First time since 1776. That's what the GOP still doesn't understand. And you know how they don't understand it, Steve? Because for the last 4 years, they didn't support this man. They didn't support him. They didn't fight for him. They didn't stand for him, except this tiny caucus in the House and in the Senate. Who stood for the president in the Senate? Now again, Cruz, okay? Lindsay's a joke, a pathetic wind vane, if ever I saw one. So the GOP, this is the big question. Will the GOP finally realize why America chose Donald Trump in 2016 and why in 2020 more Americans voted for an incumbent Republican than any president in the history of our nation? Forget Biden and his putative results. The biggest vote for any incumbent in American history, that's Donald Trump. And the GOP still has no idea how it happened.
Wow, what an interview. And there's just so much more. If you want to hear more of this Q&A, as well as actually becoming a live participant and asking your very own questions to the movers and shakers of the conservative movement all over the world, then you need to join our Insiders Club by simply clicking on the link below. Every week, you're going to have special access to some of your favorite conservatives across the globe, and you're going to love interacting daily with thousands of your fellow conservatives on our group chat and posting platforms. So make sure to click on that link below and join our Insiders Club and get your backstage pass to the worldwide conservative movement.